Imagine a place so terrifying. Even the world's most notorious criminals pray they never end up there. From ADX, Florence's bone-chilling isolation, to Kwang's suffocating nightmare, these prisons are hell on earth. And you won't believe what's really happening behind their walls. Hell. Number 1. Tucked away in the rugged terrain of Colorado, ADX, Florence stands as a fortress of despair and isolation. Known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies, this supermax prison is home to some of the world's most infamous criminals. But what truly makes ADX Florence one of the worst prisons in the world? Imagine spending 23 hours a day in a concrete cell with only a small slit for a window and a stainless steel sink toilet combo. This is the reality for inmates at ADX Florence. The extreme isolation and harsh conditions take a severe toll on their mental health, leading to depression, anxiety, and even psychosis. The lack of human interaction and the monotonous routine create a sense of hopelessness and despair. Investigative reports have revealed potential human rights abuses at ADX Florence. Inmates in the H unit face extreme isolation and sensory deprivation, spending nearly all day alone in their cells. Some have even been force-fed during hunger strikes, a practice considered by many to be a form of torture. The prison's security measures are relentless. Inmates are under 24-hour surveillance, with guards monitoring every movement. Communication with the outside world is heavily restricted, with limited visits and tightly controlled phone calls. Even within the prison, contact between inmates is minimal, preventing any chance of forming meaningful relationships. ADX Florence houses some of the most notorious criminals in history. Among them are El Chapo, the notorious Mexican drug lord, Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bomber, Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, Zacarias Moussaoui, a key player in the 9/11 attacks, and Terry Nichols, the Oklahoma City bomber. The presence of such high-profile inmates creates an atmosphere of tension and unpredictability. ADX Florence remains a symbol of the extreme measures taken to control the most dangerous criminals. While it serves its purpose of maintaining security, the psychological and emotional toll on inmates is undeniable. The combination of isolation, strict security, human rights concerns, and the presence of infamous inmates cements its reputation as one of the worst prisons in the world. Next, in the shadow of Bangkok's bustling streets lies Kwang Central Prison, a place where hope fades and despair reigns. Known as the Bangkok Hilton or Big Tiger, this notorious prison stands as a symbol of the harsh realities faced by those within its walls. Imagine being crammed into a cell built for 8, but holding 20, the air heavy with humidity and the acrid scent of sweat and decay. Overcrowding is the norm at Kwang, with a prison housing around 6,000 inmates, double its intended capacity. Each day is a struggle for survival, as prisoners fight for space, food, and basic necessities. The living conditions are nothing short of appalling. Inmates share a single, filthy toilet, and clean water is a luxury. The risk of infectious diseases is ever present, with outbreaks of tuberculosis and hepatitis causing fear and suffering. The cells, dark and suffocating, provide no respite from the relentless heat. But the physical hardships are only part of the story. Kwang is a place where time stretches endlessly, and hope is a rare commodity. Many inmates face lengthy sentences with little chance of parole. Rehabilitation programs are scarce, leaving prisoners with no path to redemption. The specter of the death penalty looms large. Inmates on death row live in constant fear, never knowing when their final day will come. Until 2013, new arrivals were shackled for the first 3 months of their sentence, a practice that left both physical and psychological scars. Human rights organizations have long condemned the conditions at Kwang. Reports of abuse and neglect are common, with prisoners often subjected to beatings and other forms of mistreatment. The prison's nickname, Big Tiger, speaks to its voracious appetite for devouring the spirits of those who enter its gates. Among its infamous inhabitants have been drug traffickers, murderers, and even political prisoners. These individuals, thrown together in a cauldron of desperation and fear, create an atmosphere of tension and unpredictability. Survival often means navigating a delicate balance of alliances and enmities. If you thought Kwang Central Prison was intense, wait until you hear about the infamous Black Dolphin Prison in Russia. This fortress of despair, located near the Kazakhstan border, is where nightmares come to life. Dubbed the Alcatraz of Russia, it's a place that breaks even the toughest of men. Black Dolphin Prison, officially known as Penal Colony No. 6, is home to Russia's most dangerous and violent criminals. Imagine a place where serial killers, terrorists, and cannibals share the same air, a place designed to crush the human spirit. Welcome to Black Dolphin. Picture this: inmates confined to cells for 23 hours a day, with barely any human contact. The cells are tiny, measuring just 50 square feet, and equipped with a bed, a table, and a toilet. There's no privacy, no solace. Inmates are moved blindfolded and handcuffed, ensuring they never learn the layout of the prison. The guards, relentless. Inmates must stand facing the wall whenever a guard enters their cell. A simple yet psychologically devastating rule. Everyday life at Black Dolphin is constant grind. The hour of exercise allowed each day takes place in a small enclosed yard. The prison's strict discipline means any infraction is met with harsh punishment. Grueling labor, often pointless and exhausting, is part of the daily routine. The psychological toll is immense, with reports of violence and abuse by guards further adding to the misery. The prison is isolated, its remote location adding to the sense of hopelessness. Surrounded by multiple layers of razor wire fences, watchtowers, and guard dogs, escape is unthinkable. The extreme measures taken to ensure security make it nearly impossible for anyone to break free. Black Dolphin's inmates include some of the most notorious criminals in Russia's history. Among them are serial killers like Anatoly Onoprienko and Mikhail Popkov, who are responsible for unimaginable atrocities. Terrorists and cannibals also find themselves confined within these walls, adding to the prison's dark reputation. Next, wait until you hear about Camp 14 in North Korea. Known as the Hell on Earth, this political prison camp is infamous for its extreme brutality and inhumane conditions. It's a place where human rights abuses are rampant, and individuals endure unimaginable hardships. Camp 14, officially known as Kwanliso No. 14, is part of North Korea's network of political prison camps. Inmates, often detained without proper legal proceedings, are subjected to forced labor, torture, and deplorable living conditions. The camp is a total control zone, making escape attempts almost impossible and ensuring severe consequences for any disobedience. The testimonies of former prisoners paint a grim picture of life in Camp 14. Inmates face public executions, systemic abuse, and induced starvation. The camp is designed to segregate those deemed unredeemable by the North Korean government, isolating them from society and exploiting their labor. One of the most harrowing aspects of Camp 14 is the 3 generations of punishment policy. This means that not only are prisoners sentenced to life in the camp, but their children and even grandchildren are also sent to the camp to complete their sentences. This policy ensures that entire families are trapped in a cycle of suffering and despair. The living conditions in Camp 14 are beyond deplorable. Inmates are housed in overcrowded barracks, with males, females, and older children separated. The camp includes farms, mines, and factories threaded through steep mountain valleys, where prisoners are forced to work under grueling conditions. The lack of proper medical care and nutrition means that treatable conditions often become life-threatening. Camp 14 stands as a stark reflection of the oppressive nature of North Korea's political prison system. The extreme brutality, inhumane conditions, and systemic abuse make it one of the most notorious and hellish prisons in the world. The testimonies of former prisoners and the international outcry over its conditions underscore the urgent need for reform and a more humane approach to incarceration. It's hard not to mention Ciudad Barrios prison in El Salvador. This notorious facility is a hellish cauldron of violence, corruption, and despair that has rightfully earned its place among the world's most feared prisons. Ciudad Barrios prison is not just a place of incarceration. It's a battleground where survival is a daily struggle. Overcrowded, unsanitary, and dominated by gang control, it is a living nightmare for those unfortunate enough to be confined within its walls. Imagine entering a prison designed to hold 800 inmates, but instead, you're crammed in with nearly 2,500 others. The overcrowding is suffocating, with inmates fighting for every inch of space. The living conditions are abysmal, with cells filled beyond capacity, leading to unsanitary conditions and a constant risk of disease. Ciudad Barrios is infamous for housing members of the notorious MS-13 gang. The prison is essentially controlled by the gang itself, with guards outnumbered and often powerless. Gang leaders enforce their own brutal form of justice, and rival factions regularly clash in violent turf wars. The atmosphere is one of perpetual fear and danger, with every day a struggle for survival. Corruption is rampant among the prison staff, further exacerbating the inmates' plight. Guards and officials often exploit their positions for personal gain, turning a blind eye to the violence and chaos within the prison walls. This corruption undermines any semblance of security and order, making life even more precarious for the inmates. Healthcare is virtually non-existent. Inmates suffering from illness or injury are often left untreated, leading to severe health crises. The lack of medical care, combined with the overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, means that minor ailments can quickly become life-threatening. One of the most shocking aspects of Ciudad Barrios is the total lack of rehabilitation programs. Inmates are left to rot in their cells, with no opportunities for education, skill building, or personal growth. This lack of hope and opportunity only fuels the cycle of violence and despair. These prisons don't just punish, they break the human spirit. Whether it's the crushing isolation of ADX Florence or the violent chaos of Ciudad Barrios, the horrors behind these walls serve as a chilling reminder of the lengths societies will go to control the worst of humanity. What happens inside stays inside, but the stories are impossible to ignore.